Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Jedley, and this is Reading with Your Kids. We're beaming out of Reedville, the gem of Southwest Boston, and we are so thrilled that you are with us. At Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful, to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. Every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imaginations. Do you want to help us grow in this mission? Then tell your friends, tell your family, tell your kids' teachers, even the school crossing guard, and remind them that they can hear us on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible. Anywhere you can find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids, including the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. We are really excited about today's show. We think you're going to love it. First up, Martha Brokenbrough. She's here to celebrate A Gift of Dust, How Saharan Plumes Feed the Earth. Beautiful picture book that'll spark your kids' imagination. Later in this show, Susan Fletcher will be here to celebrate her young adult novel. It's called Sea Change. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
855-325-1823. 855-325-1823. That's 855-325-1823.
Hey, my friends, would you like to bring a little warmth and magic into your home? Let me introduce you to Welsh Mountain Candles, hand-poured on a working Amish farm in Lancaster County. These all-natural, toxin-free candles are made from palm wax with a stunning crystallized glow, rich coconut apricot wax for a creamy finish, and essential oils for a pure, refreshing scent. Whether you're winding down, setting the mood, or just love a great candle, Welsh Mountain Candles are crafted with care and made to be shared. Visit welshmountaincandles.com. Use the promo code JED10 for 10% off your order today. Light up your home with Welsh Mountain Candles, where every candle tells a story. Join us right now from Washington State. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called A Gift of Dust, How Saharan Plumes Feed the Earth. Please welcome to the show, Martha Brokenbrough. Hey, Martha, how are you?
I'm great, Jed. How are you today?
Hot, wilted, melting, all that other stuff.
But not dusty, I hope.
Not dusty at all. Not dusty at all. We have some lettuce growing on our deck, and it's like, ugh.
Oh.
But it usually pops back.
It will. I have pumpkins growing. The neighbor kid, he's 4, and we planted them, and so we're hoping that our heat here isn't too much for them. But we're not quite as hot as you.
Yeah. So tell me, we're going to be talking about a place that gets plenty hot, I guess.
Super hot. We're talking about the Sahara Desert, one of the hottest, driest places on Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. I had never been in a desert area until I went out to Vegas in California and drove across country. One of the things that really surprised me a lot was A, how beautiful they can be, but B, how cold they are at night.
Oh, it can get really cold. Now, I don't know about the nighttime temperatures of the Sahara, but when you don't have cloud cover because it's hot, and any sort of moisture is held in the air, it absolutely can get really chilly, but it is so beautiful. And we think of Las Vegas mostly based on the strip, all the lights and the blinging. And it's actually a stunningly beautiful state. All of the, those gorgeous mountains and their blue, blue sky. And, so yeah, I hope people who, go there do more than just the casinos.
Amen. I didn't do the casinos at all. I went to see a show, and that was it. I was there to study magic for a week, my first time out there. And that was a trip. It was a gift from my beautiful wife on one of my milestone birthdays. Had a really good time. I met with some classic artists that I've admired for a long time. I also agree people should get away from the strip, see how beautiful not only the state of Nevada is, but boy, if you have a chance to drive across the country, it takes a long time, but this is such a beautiful and diverse country, and you can really appreciate it when you're out there on the highways.
It's so true.
Yeah. So tell me, how does dust that starts in Africa feed me over here in North America?
Do you like to breathe, Jed?
Oh, I love to breathe. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. Ooh, that's something that we have in common, this breathing thing. Dust helps the oceans produce oxygen. I didn't know this before reading the book because we think, oh, it's trees that and plants that produce all our oxygen. Well, guess what? Oceans do that too. And when the dust gets blown through what's called the Baudelaire Depression in Chad in West Africa, the air picks it up, and it's this absolutely enormous cloud of dust. It's so big that you can see it from space. And as it travels across the Atlantic, some of the dust sifts down into the water. And so a lot of what that dust is doing is feeding microscopic organisms, which go on to feed much larger organisms. So if you like your sharks and you like your whales, which I know you do, they are indirectly nourished by this dust. But that's not all. It keeps traveling, and it goes, it was just, I think, about a week ago in Florida. But where my book's journey ends is in the Amazon. So the Amazon is one of the wettest environments on Earth, one of the lushest and the greenest. And it's incredibly important for the planet, and the health of the planet. And without that dust, falling down captured in raindrops, the raindrops have the dust in it. The dust has phosphorus, which comes from the fossils of fish and other creatures that once lived in this giant lake. That is dried out. And so that's the source of the dust, is these fossilized bones. And it turns out they make terrific fertilizer. So ancient fish are fertilizing the plants of today.
Nature is such a wild and crazy and beautiful thing.
It is. And working on this book changed the way I view the world. This book reminded me that it's all connected. There's not us and nature. We're part of nature. We are as connected to nature as whales and sharks and plants and anacondas in the Amazon and all these incredible creatures. We're all part of it. We are all connected. And it's not just that. We're connected across time. So these fish that have become fossils, they lived millions and millions of years ago. And so what lived once is still affecting us. And, that's just the way of life. It's this incredible web that keeps recycling and folding in on itself and is astonishingly beautiful. And it's one of the things that in writing this book, I wanted to give kids a model of how the world works, because this is how our brains. One of the other books that I've written is called Future Tense, and it's about artificial intelligence. In writing the book Future Tense, I learned a lot about how human brains work. We recognize patterns, and stories are among the types of patterns that we recognize. And so, we've got these archetypes, right? Man versus nature, man versus man, man versus self. I actually wanted to completely upend that and just show humans as part of nature, as a new model. And I just think that that's a really exciting and interesting way of looking at the world.
I agree. We've talked a lot here on the podcast about getting kids out into nature, and not only to see it, but just to connect with it and protect it and enjoy it. In fact, one of the neat things that me and my kids used to do when they were at a cuddleable age, they're 29 and 32 now, we had a big old beautiful oak tree in our backyard, and we used to go and sit underneath the tree and read books together and look up into the canopy of the tree and imagine all the different creatures that were calling part of our home their home.
I think that just sounds so wonderful. And, you can also look down, and the roots of the tree are as big and wide as the canopy itself. And there's all sorts of creatures that live down there too. Most notably fungi. And, the biggest organism on the planet is a giant fungus in Oregon. And it's so incredible, what trees do and how they can communicate along these networks.
I've heard a lot about that fungi, and also the idea that trees are communicating with each other, and that there's evidence of that. When something happens to one tree, the other trees around it and far away react to protect themselves again. There's so much of this world that we don't understand, and I think that that's something really exciting to share with our kids.
Oh, I think so too. We're always learning new things. Like, that's a relatively new piece of knowledge. And we might have, imagined that trees could do that, which is a really cool thing. But knowing that they can, send messages to one another, when there are insects that could harm them, it's amazing. Also really beautiful. Trees will help feed a tree that's been wounded, or is suffering. They actually look out for one another. And it's just so remarkable. And this is one of the things that excites me so much about nonfiction for young readers today, is that, we can look through a microscope at tiny ecosystems. We can, Kate Messner has her Over and Under series. I know Amy Hevron has a series about micro climates and micro ecosystems. And it's amazing, all this stuff that we're learning and that we can give to our kids as a way of filling up their wonder bucket. And that's, I think, what you were doing with your kids under that oak tree and looking up, is filling that bucket.
Well, I'd love to tell you that it was, I had planned all that, like a good teacher, but it was just being there with the kids was something I love to do. And I was just, one of the things I did, and I encourage parents to do this, is to imagine looking at the world through their kids' eyes. Because kids are just, when we see something and it makes us feel awe and wonder, that's great. But those moments for us are few and far between. But for kids, they're seeing things for the first time every day. And if there's a way for you to share in that and kind of relive that magic, it's so cool.
Oh, I totally agree. And my kids are now 21 and almost 25. And, I'm still seeing new things through their eyes. Yeah. Not as frequently, but it is, that's one of the best parts about having a life with lots of kids in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, what turns you on to writing nonfiction for kids?
It's funny. I started off as a newspaper reporter, and I always thought, well, I want to be a real writer, and that meant writing fiction. And it wasn't until I had already written a novel and a couple of picture books that an editor asked if I was interested in writing nonfiction about Bigfoot. And I said, nonfiction, Bigfoot, because we would think that, well, Bigfoot is fictional. And she assured me that there's actually plenty of evidence that there is such a creature. So I wrote the book. And then she asked me if I would write one about sharks. And I said, okay. And then I did one about Alexander Hamilton, who, by the way, on the last night of his life, looked up at the stars with his children. Awesome. It touches my heart. And then I have one about Donald Trump, and then one about artificial intelligence, and one about the birthright citizenship amendment that can show you. It's I Am an American, the Wong Kim Ark story. Once I realized that a good story is a good story, and that fiction's not better than nonfiction. And that was a bias I had internalized by growing up and in school, always reading fiction. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the whole wide world is open, and the history of humanity is open. Space is open. We can examine and think about all of these things and share our questions and our curiosity with young people.
Yeah. One of the things we've talked here on the podcast about is that it seems like at some point in our history, somebody sat down and said, we're going to start these schools, and we're going to turn all these fascinating subjects like history and science, and we're going to make them as boring as possible. And I just don't get that, because science is fascinating. History is fascinating. Not so much memorizing dates and just spitting things back, but imagining going back and living in that time and imagining what you would do if you were living in that time. It's just wonderful.
It's really interesting. And, I'm with you in being mystified about how we let education become, in certain cases, so test and results driven. Mm. Education should never be about a product. It should be about a process, and it should be about a process for organizing our curiosity. And we can organize our curiosity in every subject. How do we answer questions? How do we find information? How do we build things? How is this one subject connected to another? And it's funny, I sometimes go and talk at NCTE, which is the National Council of Teachers of English. And I say, look, I've never been paid to write a 5-paragraph essay. There are so many other things that we can ask our kids to do. What's the purpose of a 5-paragraph essay? Well, it's to help kids form an argument and come up with supporting evidence. There's a million ways that you can do that. And certainly, imagine if you and I were having a disagreement on something, I wouldn't write a 5-paragraph essay. I would say, well, I'm curious about where you stand on this. This is what I think, and here's why, but tell me about how you think. And we would engage in a discussion, and that's actually more relevant and more valuable. And I could see kids enjoying that a little bit more. Okay, go on.
No, I was going to say, what a great way to help our kids look at the world. What are you curious about? And it would be, I think, much more helpful for them to grow up being curious, to look at somebody that disagrees with them and say, I wonder why they think like that. I wonder how they got to that point when I'm on the opposite side, instead of what most of us adults are doing these days, which is, you're on that team, well, I hate you and I can't talk to you.
Yeah, and kids just are not that way. The kid's mind is getting organized, and it's figuring out what all the patterns are. And so we as adults have a lot of responsibility to ensure that we're not injecting bias that we don't realize that we have, that if we don't know something, saying, I don't know, is a really great answer. Much better than if a kid says, why is the sky blue? And you give them a baloney answer. Because once they've got that bit of baloney in their heads, it's going to stick. And so, just cultivating curiosity and looking for answers. And, this is my bias, but I think experts and scholars are a really good source of reliable information. And, figuring out how that can be translated. I'm reading this incredible book, Owls of the Eastern Ice by Jonathan Slot, I think is how you say it, Slaght. And it's this book about this endangered owl that lives in Russia, and about what he did as a graduate student to try to find, to trap the owls so that he could get little data collecting devices on them, and then understand with that data about where they eat and how they move and live, how to preserve this species. And so he's an academic and he's an incredible writer. And I feel like sometimes there's a convention of academic writing and academic expression that, we think is what we should be doing, but actually telling a story that gets somebody emotionally invested is a much better way of learning and teaching.
Yeah. I agree. I was actually invited to be on a panel and talk. When I got there, I all I could think of is the old Sesame Street song. One of these things is not like the others. There was a person from the largest advertising agency in New England on the panel, and this other person who opened up 5 different businesses, and me, and all I'm doing is telling stories. And after the panel was over, I was the only one people were coming up to and talking to.
Well, human beings are fundamentally emotional creatures. And we actually need our emotions. Without having our emotions and being able to regulate them, if we can't feel them at all, we can't make a decision. And this was another thing that I learned from my book, Future Tense, that, we think that rational decisions is something separate from an emotional process. Your rational mind is governed by your emotional mind, and people who've had their brains injured in such a way that they can't feel emotions cannot make a decision. And the simplest way I have of explaining it is saying, when you make a pro and con list, you've got things that are on the list. The pro and the con is emotional. That's the emotional content. I like it. I don't like it. And so emotions get a really bad rap. Our emotions are incredibly important, and giving our children a vocabulary for this is how I feel, and understanding, what to do with that feeling, maybe what caused it, or maybe you're hungry. That feeling hangry is very specific. But just helping kids understand, that feeling is a natural thing, and it's a cue that you need to do some thinking.
Yeah. That was certainly something that we had to work on with, especially my son through his middle school years, and he worked really hard in it. Very proud of him, and he's a great guy.
That's wonderful, and it's so important. And we've got this kind of cultural baggage that emotions are feminine and thinking is masculine, and that's just not true. Human beings have both, and the capacity for both. And, there's a spectrum. Some people are really good at thinking, and some people are really good at feeling. And, most of us are somewhere in the middle, and both processes with practice, we can become better at. Not perfect. I had a math professor who used to say, perfection isn't useful. And I remember it makes me feel good to realize that my imperfection is totally fine.
That's cool. You mentioned your book, I think you said Future Tense, about AI. How do you feel about AI? For me, I love AI. I use it, but I'm always polite to it, because if they take over, I want them to remember that I said please and thank you.
How do I feel about AI is a really complicated question, because there's lots of different kinds of AI. And so the big picture, I think that, you know how we say the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice?
Okay.
The material arc of the universe, meaning everything that we've invented over time, has bent toward artificial intelligence. For thousands of years, people have wanted to have machines do their thinking. Whether it was the ancient Greeks imagining, a warrior god made of bronze with a vein of metal running up it and, guarding the island of Crete, to chess automatons. I mean, people have wanted that for a really long time. There's going to be some good things that come from it. Like, I love that an eye doctor using artificial intelligence can diagnose heart problems. It's fascinating that that's possible. I don't love people trying to write fiction using AI. I think, when it comes to art, the purpose of art in the world is to help us think and feel about what it means to be a person. And when a person is creating that and sort of wrestling with all the complexities of life and giving you an emotional journey, telling a story that makes you feel something, you are engaged in conversation with that person. If a machine has created it, you're simply being manipulated by a machine. I don't really like that. When we talk about AI taking over, that's really what we're afraid of, is machine manipulation of us, of our environment. And so I don't think that we should have any part in that. And new data that's coming out, people who rely on Chat GPT for their thinking, their brains are atrophying. It's not good for you. So, a good way of using it. One of my daughters has severe dyslexia. So when she writes something, she can put it into Chat GPT and say, please correct my grammar. The grammar and mechanics. And so it will. It's still her writing. She did the writing. It's not writing anything new. It's just correcting it. So it's sort of a souped up, spell check, grammar check. I'm okay with that. I do think we need to keep on doing our own thinking, or we will lose it as a skill. Generations of people have forgotten how to make pancakes because of pancake mix. Pancakes are really easy, but we sort of think, oh, you need a mix to make that. You absolutely do not need a mix. And, we don't want to lose these skills that we have. And so that's what I think.
So I'm wondering, what is it that is fascinating you at this moment that we might see in a book in the future?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've been talking a lot about the brain. And so there's going to be more books about the brain that also have elements of space in them, because I'm super interested in cosmology. And I'll give you this one little teaser. The human mind, if you look at the shape of it, if you look at the way that it's organized with neurons connected with filaments, the universe has galaxies connected with filaments. Human mind is 70% water. The universe is 70% dark matter. And so our minds are tiny universes inside of our skulls. And I find this fascinating because, in part, we are the universe having become conscious of itself. Like, we are animals that know there's this vast universe around us. And if the universe is a big brain and these little mini brains have emerged, I just think that's impossibly cool. And I don't know yet what to make of it, but that's what I'm thinking hard about.
Wow. You have an open invitation to come back to celebrate that book when it is out there.
That sounds great. I would love to do that. The person who discovered dark matter, by the way, a woman, which is very unusual in the history of science. And so, Can
we give her a shout out?
You know what? We could, except her name just flew right out of my head.
Dark matter.
It's in the dark matter, but you know how that sometimes happens at the end of the day. What was her name? Anyway, so yeah, but she will definitely be mentioned in the book.
Awesome. Well, we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about A Gift of Dust, how Saharan plumes feed the earth, and find out more about all the books coming from your imagination.
You can go to my website, which is marthabrokenbro.com, or the easy way is marthabee.com.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of A Gift of Dust. Our guest has been Martha Brokenbro. Hey, Martha, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, and happy listening, everyone.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. My friends, if you have ever thought about owning a business that's fun, rewarding, and makes a valuable contribution to kids' education, well, Brooklyn Robot Foundry is calling your name. I recently met Jenny Young. She's the founder of Brooklyn Robot Foundry. And let me tell you, she is incredible. Her passion for getting kids excited about STEAM, that's STEM plus art, it's contagious. I'm telling you. This isn't your average kids program. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is all about hands-on, screen-free STEAM fun. These kids get to build a different robot each class and take it home with them afterwards. Kids love it. Parents are raving about it. And now you can own a franchise and bring this incredible experience to families in your community. Now, this isn't your typical franchise. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is a mobile, flexible business with a deep curriculum that's making a real impact in schools and communities around the country. Franchise owners get a proven curriculum, full training, and support from a passionate team. So what are you waiting for? Please visit bit.ly/RobotJed. That's bit.ly/RobotJed. And let them know you heard about it on Reading with Your Kids. Join us right now from the great state of Texas. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new YA science fiction love story. It's called Sea Change. Please welcome to the show, Susan Fletcher. Susan, how are you?
I am great and glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you on Sea Change. As I understand it, this is a loose retelling of The Little Mermaid.
It is. It's quite loose, and I've sort of substituted science for magic in some ways. I've said it maybe later in this century, and the transformation that the Little Mermaid undergoes, where she changes from a sea creature to being human, that kind of thing is all happening through some of the things that are going on with science right now.
Wow. So can you explain a little bit more along that line, how that transformation happens?
Sure. My daughter, I never was a science person. I always was a book and English major kind of a person, but my daughter is a scientist and she has a doctorate in engineering and microbiology. And she told me, Mom, you really ought to know what's going on with genetics today because it is amazing what they are doing. And she told me this, it was like, I would say it's at least 10 years ago or maybe even more. And so I just started reading about genetics and just, not really, thinking I was going to write about it, but I just became interested in it. And the more I read, the more interested I got. And the field really started heating up. Eventually, CRISPR, the gene editing technique, came, into the newsfeed all the time. And then, the two, female scientists won the Nobel Prize for their work in CRISPR. And I became really interested in this, how far can we go with this? Right now they're actually curing, diseases that they've not been able to cure before, like, sickle cell disease. And they're also working on the vulnerability to, Alzheimer's and LDL cholesterol and AIDS and things like that. I mean, it's really, really a game changer for medicine. But also you can go beyond that with CRISPR, with gene editing. You can edit little things out of the DNA so that, for instance, someday people might be able to see as well as eagles, hear as well as bats. Their brains could change, bone density, to the point where transhumanism is actually on the, it's a possibility someday. So, and somebody's going to have to make the decision about how far can we go with this? Mm-hmm. How far is okay to go with this? And it's not going to be anybody in my generation. It's going to be somebody who is in the generation of kids who are reading my books. So it just caught me.
It sounds, you sound so excited about it. I'm aware of CRISPR and some of the things that it can do. You've obviously taken a much deeper dive. You said that one of the questions we're going to have to ask, or the generation to follow us is going to have to ask, is how far can we go with this? Since you've done so much thinking about it, do you have thoughts on that?
I just don't know. I really don't know. It's a dilemma. I mean, I think it's going to be really, really controversial. So one of the things that happened while I was writing my book, when I was in the process of writing, is that the topic became really hot. And fortunately, some books for lay people came out. So that books that I could actually understand. And one of them was co-written by one of the women who won the Nobel Prize. And she says, we're not at a place of being able to decide that right now, but it's a critically important decision. And one of the questions is, who should decide? It's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect everybody on the planet eventually. And so how do we collectively make this kind of decision? And so one of the things that she says, her name is Jennifer Doudna, and she says that it's critically important that we make this decision, and that the people who it's going to affect are, contributing to the decision making. But how is that going to happen? Nobody knows. I mean, it's a tough question. So mainly, I'm not predicting the future. I'm speculating and I'm raising the question. And other people will have to answer this. I mean, I'll be gone, at the point where it becomes really critical to have an answer to these questions that I'm raising. So.
Or perhaps somebody can figure out how to use CRISPR to extend life to, ages that we never dreamed of.
That is actually one of the things that has been written about. Yeah, to extend the human age to length to places that it's never been before. So you're saying I might be 150 and still. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I think I may be too late for that too. So
I think so too. And also with the way with the time it takes my body when I turn an ankle or, sprain a muscle, and it takes 6 months for it to heal now. I don't know what it would be like to be 150.
I am with you. Recovering from a cold takes forever now. So yeah, doggone it.
So tell us, we're all familiar with Ariel and the Little Mermaid. Tell us about your protagonist, please.
Well, her name is Turtle, and she. What happened was her parents saw the gene technology coming along, and then they saw that they were going to be too late to do what they wanted. Her parents are divers, and they wanted to give her enhanced lung capacity so that, because they love diving, and they thought, man, if you could go down there without a tank, without an air tank for a long time, wouldn't that be great? And so they hire somebody who turns out to be a rogue gene hacker. And this guy, and the kids that he hacks their DNA before they're born. And all these kids come out with gills as well as lungs. He makes a mistake. They don't get the enhanced lung capacity. They get gills instead. So she can breathe underwater and above water. But then as time goes by, her ability to breathe above water gets hinky, and there's problems with it. So she and her cohort of about 100 kids who are all about the same age live on a reconditioned, old and sort of rotting cruise ship off an island in the Gulf of Mexico, and they're growing up there together. So
Wow. That is, I'm trying to imagine that in my mind, and it's really incredible.
Well, thank you. It was very fun to write. My island, the island that they live near, is a barrier island off of Texas, very much like Galveston. So, of course, I went to Galveston, and Galveston is a quirky place. It's very fun. And also Galveston is one of the places in the world that's experiencing sea level rise faster than other places. There's a glacier off of Antarctica, which is melting, and there's a quirk with the sea currents. It's taking a lot of that water straight up to the Gulf of Mexico. So Galveston is they're in trouble because of sea level rise. And so I've taken this further into the future. And so that's another thing about Galveston, is they're flooding some parts of the island in order to save other parts from the inevitable rise of the ocean. So.
Wow. There's so much going on. As you're creating these worlds and being inspired by the current science, how excited do you get as these ideas are coming to you?
Well, they usually come bit by bit, but I do love it. It's very exciting to me. And, one of the things that, not to have a spoiler, but the ending was like, how am I going to end this? And, I won't say more than that. It has something to do with some of those oil platforms that are out in the Gulf of Mexico. And Galveston actually has a museum they've dragged in an oil platform up into the land. And so you can go onto it and see what life must be like there. And so when I found that, it solved a problem that I was having with the ending, and I was really excited then. So
I bet. I noticed on your website that you write for pretty much all genres of books. Do you have a favorite?
Right now it's young adult. It's mainly been middle grade. I've got 2 picture books, and I really had a wonderful time writing them, but I think I'm more of a natural novelist than a picture book writer. And so, Shadow Spinner, the Dragon Chronicles, Journey of the Pale Bear, those are all sort of upper middle grade. And I think that's sort of where I have been most comfortable in the past, but now I'm really liking YA. So.
Did Sea Change always, do you always intend to write this as a YA title?
I did, yeah, and I'm not sure why. I can't remember exactly why that was, but I think I think as soon as I put the gene altering technology together with the Little Mermaid. And the Little Mermaid is, I mean, the Disney movie is really not YA, but there's a romance in it. So at the heart of it. And so when you're writing a novel, you're going to have to get more into the romance. And I thought, I think that better be YA. So.
Tell us about the person Turtle falls in love with.
So she falls in love with a guy who is, he's a diver, he's a scavenger, and he has lost his home due to the flooding on the island. And he's very handsome and charming. And so Turtle is the mer, I call them the mer kids, the ones that have gills. She's scavenging, and that's part of how they make their living, is they scavenge some of these underwater places that have been flooded. And she runs into him, and they have a little underwater fight. He's scuba diving, and they have an underwater tussle over an object that means something to Turtle. But then his hose gets caught, and he's stuck, and then his hose starts to leak. So he's in big trouble, and she's doing fine down there. And so even though they were having a fight over this object, she doesn't want him to die. And so she goes up and gulps some air and comes down, and she mouth to mouth, pushes the air into him so that he can survive. And then it sort of turns into kind of a kiss. And, then her heart is stolen after that. She's a goner. So.
One of our favorite guests here on Reading with Your Kids is Rajini Laraka. And one of the things she told me is that she likes to start her books with an emotion. What emotions do you hope your readers walk away with after finishing Sea Change?
Oh my gosh. I think it's bittersweet. I have a friend who's a screenwriter, and she said, why can't you make it come out totally triumphant and happy, like The Little Mermaid, the Disney version of The Little Mermaid is about the Hans Christian Andersen, the original Little Mermaid, came out the opposite of happy. But I like bittersweet, and especially given the seriousness of the issues that are facing this world. I like my characters to make mistakes and have to recover from them, and to, move forward into life, maybe not completely triumphant, but still very hopeful. So maybe hopeful. That would be the short answer to your question, I think.
I like that. I mean, it's, a Disney ending where everybody lives happily ever after. It's great for little kids, but it's not as realistic as I think what you're writing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene or moment in the book that you just had a blast writing as you were writing it?
Yeah, there were a number of them. One of them is that there's actually another guy who is, there are actually two romantic interests. And when she finally gets together with one of these guys, and they have a very, I don't know, I sort of play off of Romeo and Juliet, the balcony scene, and it was kind of sweet, and also to me it was funny, made me giggle, and I just really enjoyed writing that scene. There was also a character named Emerson who just every once in a while in my books, and this doesn't happen with every character, but every once in a while in my books there's a character that just jumps off the page. The character enters the scene, and I never have to think about what is this guy going to say, what are they thinking, what do they look like. They just start talking to me, and I just write it down. So there was a character named Emerson in this book like that, and I just had an absolute blast writing the Emerson scenes. So.
Do you see more stories coming from this world that you've created?
I don't know. I mean, this was actually, if my editor said we got to have another one, I would give it I would think about it. But this is really, because it's science fiction and it deals with, this the complex science that's going on, and also the fact that it's at heart a romance. It's a love story. Those things are, it was hard. It was really hard to write. And so now I'm thinking, I think I'll write something easier next time. But, if it looked like people wanted a continuation of the story, I would be happy to continue it. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to talk to any readers and get their feedback?
A lot of friends read it in manuscript, and there's some of them really loved it, and other ones are like, "What are you, cheese gills? What are you doing?" So some of the people who are not that crazy about science fiction were a little, not as enthralled as the ones who are open to a science fiction story.
Well, we all know that Disney's Little Mermaid was a huge hit at the box office. If Sea Change were adapted to a film, who do you think would star?
Boy, I don't know. Because, she's 15, and I don't really know any actresses who are 15, or who would be 15 at the time. That's one of the problems with, who would be your kid star, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Well, I bet you know where we can go to find out more about Sea Change and find out more about you.
To my website?
There you go.
All right. So www.susanfletcher.com.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Sea Change. It is the YA science fiction love story from our guest, Susan Fletcher. Susan, thanks so much for being part of Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you very much. This was a real pleasure, Jed.
We're so glad that you spent part of your day with us here at Reading with Your Kids. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider passing it on. Share the link, leave a 5-star review, and hit that subscribe button so you can join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If you haven't already done it so, please check out readingwithyourkids.com. It's the hub for all things Reading with Your Kids, including how to become a guest, join our Certified Great Read program, and explore amazing new books. Want to give a heartfelt thanks to today's guest, Susan Fletcher. Please be sure to check out her young adult novel. It's called Sea Change. And also Martha Brokenball. Please be sure to check out A Gift of Dust, how Saharan Plumes Feed the Earth. Great new picture book your kids will love. I want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. And of course, we want to thank you. You're helping to shape a kinder, smarter world every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you on the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Let's go. When the sun rises, it's a brand new day. Let your dreams fly high, chase the clouds away. Put your worries down, let the rhythm ignite. You can dance to the beat, shine your colors so bright. Don't you worry if you stumble, if you trip on the floor. Every twist and turn opens up a new door. Life's a wild journey, take it step by step. Every little heartbeat, feel the joy intersect.